We are going to look at creating a breakout game. There's going to be a couple of different parts, but this first video is going to really kind of cover what you should get done in the first day. I'm going to go relatively quickly and skip through a few parts that you may have seen before, but it should cover most of the new things that we need. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create a couple of sprites. So we're going to create a wall sprite and a ground sprite. And these are going to be similar to what we used before. In fact, I'm going to use the tutorial wall blocks that we have. So again, I'm creating wall sprite. Okay, and I'm going to also create a ground sprite. I'm actually going to use the same block, but what I'm going to show you what we can do is we can edit the sprite. So I'm going to click there, and I'm actually going to use this flood fill, pick a color like that, and just kind of add a little bit of color into it so that these blocks look a little bit different. Something like that. Okay, I'm going to call this ground. Now we're going to make a breakout game, so I need a couple other sprites. I'm going to look for a bat. I'm going to use this large bat. I'm actually going to call it a paddle. I'm going to also get a ball. I can use whatever ball I want. Let me choose to use a red ball for right now. And the one thing I want to add as well are some bricks. So I'm going to use these stone bricks. We're going to use more of them later, but for right now I'm just going to pick one. And I think I will pick a orange brick to start with. Okay. I'm going to call this orange brick because we will have different color bricks eventually. Okay, so that's all my objects. Now one thing I want to make sure each object is checked is precision collision checking. I want to make sure that's checked because that is going to help us when we get into things. Okay, so now what we need to do is create objects for each of these. So I'm going to go back and create objects. Again, I will have a wall object. And it's going to be solid. I'm going to create the rest of them and get back with you. I finished creating all of my objects here, and all of these objects are solid objects created similar to what we did before. Now the one exception is the ball object that's not a solid object, and what I'm going to actually do is put all of my events that I need to add for this first round right here on the ball object. So let's look at what we're going to add here. So first thing I need to do is add an event to create. And when I do that, similar to what we did before, I'm going to put a move object. Now this ball, I don't want it to start by heading up, so I want it to start by heading in a downward direction. And let's just give it a speed of 8 to start. You can adjust this as you see fit. Okay. I also need to create several collision events. So for one thing, I need to have an event that says what happens when I collide with my paddle. But when I collide with my paddle, I just want to bounce off. I do want to have this precisely listed there. Okay. Same thing for the walls. I'm going to create a collision on the wall, and I am going to bounce off. And I'm going to say precisely. Now the ground is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have a collision with the ground object. But when I collide with the ground object, I actually want to do two things. First thing I want to do is sleep. And so I find my sleep under my main 2. So So I'm going to basically sit and wait 1 second, which is 1,000 milliseconds. And then after I sleep, I want to go back to my original starting position, which is this one right here. Jump to start. Essentially, if I hit the ground, I'm resetting. We're going to do more with that later, but for right now, that's what we're doing with our ground. Okay. Let's see here. I also need to have my yellow brick collision, or my orange brick collision. When I have an orange brick, I want to do several things as well. The first thing I want to do is bounce off of it. But then I actually want, I'm going to enable precisely, I actually want that brick to go away. And so I'm going to go to main 1 and I will find destroy instance, which is going to basically remove that brick. And the other thing I'm going to do is I am going to set my score. So I'm going to say my score increases by 10. So again, that's 10 and it's going to be relative. That's all the events I need for my ball, so I can hit OK. Now, one event I need for my paddle, and that is a collision on the wall. And when it collides with the wall, I'm just going to say bounce off. We're also going to be creating a couple events to move our paddle. So let's see, bounce off. And again, precisely. Okay. Now with the paddle, we need to control our paddle. So we're going to have events to control it. And so we're going to use keyboard commands, and I'm going to use my left mouse button, or my left arrow. And when I hit my left arrow, I'm essentially changing my X position of the paddle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say jump to position, and I'm going to say -8, and I'm going to make it relative. So essentially by making it relative, I say I'm going to change my X position by 8. My Y stays the same. I'm not going to be able to move my paddle up and down, only left and right. And likewise, when I do a right key, I'm going to move my right by +8, and again, relatively speaking. Okay. And those are the events I need for my paddle. All right, so I have most of my objects now. I am going to need a start object at some point, but we'll come back to that in a little bit. Next thing I want to do is add a room. So remember, adding a room here, and we're going to actually add more than one room eventually, so we're going to call this level 1. And the caption for the room will be level 1 as well. Okay. And I'm going to make this bigger and set my snaps to 32. Okay. And so going in and putting some objects. So I'm going to put my wall all around. And holding down Shift allows me to just zoom straight across without having to click. I'm going to put ground objects down. I'm going to finish placing my objects and get back to you. Okay, I've finished creating my room. One other thing I want to do is I want to change the background color. I'm going to make this first room a black background color. And one other thing that we didn't do before that I want to go back and do is to add an object for the start. And we did this in the tutorial. We'll call this our start object. For now, we're only going to use one thing. We'll add more to it later, but that one thing is to set the score back to 0. So new score is 0, and I can hit OK. Now I need to go put that score into my room, and I can put that anywhere there. Okay. Now one thing that's a little bit different that we're going to do here is we're going to have multiple levels. And so we have one room right now. We're going to duplicate this room here. Just going to say duplicate. And then I'm going to come back in and edit. Now I want to remove that start, so I'm going to right click there to remove it. I want to know that I'm on another level, so I'm going to change my background color. Let's make this new background color more of a blue. I'm going to call this level 2. I'll name this level 2 here. Now the other thing I'm going to do is rearrange these bricks So I'm going to remove these bricks here. And I will get back to you on the second room. And there's not a lot of bricks in here, but part of the reason is we're going to add a different color brick tomorrow when we look at the next level. But for now, that's all we're going to put in there. So I have the extra bricks in there. I give it a new starting location, and I'm good to go. I've removed this start because I don't want to reset the score here. Now what we need to do is figure out how do we get to that next level. And what we're going to do is we're going to level up based on the number of points that you have. So if I go back to my first room, I said each brick was worth 10 points. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 2 gives me 140 points. So if I come over to my ball, I'm going to use an if statement now. And we've seen if statements a lot in Java. The way they work here is similar. But now I say whenever I hit a brick, I set the score relative to 10. Now I want to come into my score and I'm going to go on the test score button and I'm going to put the score there. And I'm going to say if it's equal to a value of 40, then I want to do something. And what I want to do is switch rooms. So I go to main 1 and I see the option for next room. I'm going to say transition is a blend. So basically saying set the score to 10 every time I break a brick. If the score is equal to 140, go to the next room. That should give me what I need for this first day. So let's try it out. We'll save it and try it out here. All right, so I play the game, and what I notice is when my ball hits the bricks, it disappears. We have one mistake that we need to go back and fix. And that's back over here when we have the orange object. We said destroy the instance. But what happens is it's destroying the ball since we're right here. We actually have to click over here and say apply to the other. We actually want not the ball to destroy, but the other part, the other thing that it collided with. And so we're going to apply that there. We click OK, we click run, and let's see what we have. Now we end up destroying our bricks. Just fast forwarding ahead of here. Then we get rid of this last one and we'll see if our new level appears. And there's our new level appearing. Perfect. I'm going to leave it here for today and we will pick up with more of this tomorrow.